got a t-shirt with bloodstains all over it, maybe laundry isn't your biggest problem right now.
I remember the day the candle shop burned down. Everybody just stood around and sang happy birthday.
And a security guard came over and said, "You're gonna have to move. You're blocking the fire exit." As though if there was a fire, I wasn't gonna run.
You make love to the right woman, Johnny, it's beautiful, beautiful. I mean, the last time I made love to my wife, it was ridiculous. Nothing was happening. I looked at her, I said, "What's the matter? Can't you think of anyone either?"
I never learn, you know, like a waitress will bring my meal. "Hey, enjoy your meal, you too!" But you don't have one, do you? I'm a doofus. If you do eat, enjoy it when you eat it. If you have a break or something later, if you get an opportunity, that's all I'm trying to say. That's all that I'm driving at, really.
Hello, welcome to Comedy Think Tanked, a podcast with Leonard Kimball and Nick Gordon, two comedians who know how to take a drink and have a thought. Sit back, get comfortable, and enjoy. Now, whether they're ready or not, here's your hosts, Leonard and Nick.
Leonard, how you doing?
Good, Nick. How are you doing?
No, that's good. That was not awkward at all. That's good.
Hello, Nick.
Hi, Leonard. How are you? I love this. We're having a lot of fun doing these. You know, it's something, you know, the weather's terrible and it's just nice to see some friendly faces, even if it is over Zoom.
Over a computer in my basement.
What have you been doing? Like, what? I mean, have you been staying active? I've actually tried to lose the weight that I've gained over the last 10 years. so it's hard. I looked at, so I have this app called Lose It. So it actually, I have been keeping track of my weight off and on for like the last 10 years apparently. And so you see this graph and there's this huge drop in like 2010 where I trained for, I think it was 2010, where I trained for like the Tough Mudder up at like Sunday River. And I was just I was down to I don't know, 203 pounds, something like that, which is good for me. So I'm still a big guy, but I got some bulk to me. But when I was a real athlete, when I was in high school and I wrestled at 183. So me a little bit, you know, a little bit chub on me is like 200. And so I was down to 200 or something like that, you know, low 200s, 203, something like that in 2010. And then there's this sort of what's the Price is Right game where the yodeler guy, he's going up the mountainside.
Right.
That's right.
Oh God, I can't think of the name of that. We'll edit that in later. And he's like yodel, and it's me going up this mountain to my peak, which had some jaggeds, but I hit a peak in November, and my peak, you know, spoiler alert, I'm a little bit ashamed to say it was 290 pounds. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to hit 300 pounds. I don't want to be able to say I'm 300 pounds. Because then I could no longer, because I could already not I kept lying to myself oh yeah, I'm an athletic guy. No, I'm not. I'm not an athletic guy at 290 pounds. When I was 240, when I was 240, 230, I could still say, yeah, I'm a, you know, fairly athletic guy. I can, you know, play volleyball for a while and, you know, tear an Achilles tendon here and there. But I was still relatively athletic.
What's your height? 7 foot what? No. Yeah. Well, okay. I'm 5'8". So for those of you, for you BMI experts listening in, so 290 pounds, 5'8". Apparently, that's on some I don't know, some obesity chart. I don't know. So a quick story back at my MIT days. I was doing a dietary study, and I was there, and I think I asked the guy, was like, he took down my weight and my height, and he said, "Oh, you're very obese." And I was like, and
well,
English wasn't his first language, so I was just like, do you mean like overweight? And he's like, yeah, you're very obese. I mean but
very obese. Isn't obese like that's huge? Yeah. And then when you say very something, obese. It's even more so. Like you're very huge. Like, oh my God.
And I was just like, oh yeah. So I'm overweight. He's like, yes, you're very obese. I'm like, stop it. Stop saying obese.
Say it again one more time. I'm gonna sit on you.
Right. So that was a bit of a wake-up call, hitting 290 and not feeling very healthy anymore. Besides the fact that I knew, I couldn't like hang with my son on basketball court or anything like that. That was
yeah. You can't let your kid beat you at basketball.
No, I'm sure he can beat me at basketball when he actually uses the skills that God has given him. But like if he tries to like sort of drive at me and do a layup around me, I'm just swatting away the ball all the time because I'm still bigger and stronger than him. So he can't drive at me without me just.
But if he steps back and crosses under and
absolutely, yeah. If he does a crossover, I'm going to tear my other Achilles tendon. And I'm gonna be on the ground. He's gonna shoot and he's gonna laugh. He's gonna make his jump stop. He's gonna laugh until I start crying, and then he's gonna help me up, and then he's gonna laugh some more after I come home with another boot.
You've actually raised a good kid then.
Yes, yeah.
That's what you want.
Take the shot, then get your laughs later.
Yeah, hold the hand up there.
Right. Like dip your hand in the cookie jar. Right.
Yeah, leave it up. Let everyone see it. What?
Do the Steph Curry 1, 2, 3.
The Price is Right game is called Cliffhangers.
Cliffhanger.
I pulled it up, and it's. Sir. I mean, yeah. Speaking of somebody who lost weight, Drew Carey actually is much skinnier now. Anyways, Jesus. Wow. As we get,
he's probably lost more than I have. So since like November, but with most of my weight loss happening in the last month, I've lost 20 pounds.
Nice, excellent.
And I have this treadmill that's about 7.5 feet away from me, and I've started using it much more since Christmas time or so.
Nice.
But in the last month and a half, I've been doing intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
And a friend got me into it, and I tried it, and I've been. My window is sort of like noon to 8 p.m. is my window of eating. Yeah. And just because of schedules or whatever, I'm only eating from like 1 to 7.
Yeah.
And it's helped tremendously.
I've definitely tried it myself too to kind of narrow the time frame because I have no qualms about eating something at midnight. But what has helped me recently is in 2021 now, since January 1st, 2021, I have not had any alcohol, and we're now into February, and I still am going strong with no alcohol. And I find that when I don't have 4 or 5 beers or half a bottle of wine or whatever in the afternoon, evening, Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I also don't eat as much, so I feel better. I feel like I'm losing weight. I don't really see any results yet, and I don't own a scale, so I'm not sure. I think the last time I weighed myself, I was at my parents' house. So
you don't own a scale?
I don't own a scale. No, I don't know why I would ever really need one. I live here by myself.
It's to see how much you weigh. That's what they're for.
Oh. Actually, I do know in March or April, maybe I have a doctor's appointment coming up. So I need, when I go, I want to be weighing less than I weigh.
I like when I go to doctor's appointments and they put me on the scale and they're like, oh, you're 290, 287. And I always say, these are heavy clothes.
I'm wearing my winter boots.
I get a laugh every time. These are heavy clothes I'm wearing.
There's I brought my own lead vest for the X-ray.
I'm preparing for X-rays and
an extra 30 lbs, as they say right there.
yeah.
Well, our guest today does not weigh. Well, he's tall. He might weigh somewhere
tall.
in the neighborhood of 160. he's one of the skinniest comedians I think
He has a very reasonable BMI, I'm sure.
Ever worked with. Not saying he's healthy necessarily, but
Yeah.
but he is fucking funny, and
Yes.
and we definitely love working with Adam Hatch. We're talking about Adam Hatch from Bangor, Maine, who's opened up, for local comedian Bob Marley, but also national headliners like Eddie Brill, I believe he said, and but he's been working comedy throughout the state of Maine, New England, and all the way to Chicago and Vegas, and points in between, I'm sure. And he's one of the funniest guys we work with, and we had the opportunity to talk with him about his life now during the pandemic, pre-pandemic, and what he thinks probably will never happen again.
the after times that may
After
happen
times,
someday.
yeah, some Game of Thrones sort of weirdness, but
Excellent.
yeah. So that was a good conversation, and unless you want to talk more about your weight, we'll go to our interview with Adam Hatch right now.
No, ladies and gentlemen, Adam Hatch.
What's up?
You all look more professional than I do.
This is all for show. None of this actually works.
Yeah, these fake microphones, fake headphones.
Nothing screams single dad like that wrinkly sheet in the background, Nick. But I got two kids thumping around upstairs doing God knows what. So hopefully when we're done, they'll be okay.
Are they alone?
They're alone.
Do you feel like a bad parent leaving?
I mean, I'm drinking, so it's fine. Sad but true.
Is that a Captain and Coke?
Jack and Coke.
Jack and Coke. Oh man,
it's the parental drink of choice, really.
Wow.
What's up with you guys?
Well, geez, we're just trying to get through it all, right? I mean, there's not much else going on, so we said, what the hell? Let's just start phoning people up and doing some interviews, talking comedy and whatnot, since we can't actually get out and do comedy.
Having some chats.
Yeah.
I've tried to bond to like the open mics, the Zoom open mics and shows just to check them out, and I haven't been able to make it yet, but I'm intrigued by it. Like the whole.
They're interesting. Interesting.
That's a great way to put it. Like some of them we have like we'll have like fucking 30 people respond that they want to be on the open mic, and then like 7 of them will show up, and then it'll be like the weirdest the weirdest experience ever. Like people's mic cutting out, people asking questions during people's sets, and
Can you explain that the premise of that penis joke a little more, please? I'm not really clear on what's going on.
Is it a big penis
or your grandmother? I can't even imagine. Like, open mics are tough enough and awkward enough sometimes to then put it in this format. It just, oh man.
Right, we're in the middle of the open mic, so it's like, yeah, man. I think you get on the phone. Yeah, I'm doing an open mic. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think they're in Maine. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I think I'm up. I don't know when I'm going up. I'm not going up next.
It's brutal. It's so brutal.
Yeah.
But Jesus, we'd love to have you out for one.
Yeah. I think
Please God come.
I got something, a leak going on up in
I know you're a busy man. You're a busy man. Sorry.
No, I mean, it's what I mean, those are great times. And there's really the great thing about Zoom and remote options like that is that there's no travel involved, which is like the most appealing thing to those Zoom shows and that kind of environment. It's like, I don't have to leave my house. Like, that's awesome. But Yeah, no, I'll jump on one. I honestly just want to check it out and watch and see what it's like. The shows, it's kind of, so as audience members, so let's say it's a show, do people stay unmuted so you can hear people hopefully laugh?
Yes, hopefully. Okay. We ask them to unmute, and then most people just flat out ignore the request. I mean, it's awesome. You know, still, I'm only 3 years into doing comedy, so I'm used to people being silent when I'm on stage. But you know, when my face is like, you know, 15 inches away from there, and I'm just like, hey, you know. Yeah, Mildred 79. Can you unmute and so we can hear your laughter?
And then they just go
nothing.
We do. We actually have people walk away from their screen, and it's like, where the hell did they go?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just goes to show you that, you know, how people would be during a comedy show if they really could be that way, you know. I'll be back. You know, I'm gonna go grab some shit and I'll be back. Maybe.
Exactly.
Maybe I'll just turn Jeopardy up. Like we got to listen to Jeopardy during one open mic. That was nice.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't listen when you try to, like, you know, ask them to move to the front of, you know, of a venue, you know, so, hey, you guys want to just come? I mean, it's a better experience. Oh, you're good. Okay. Yeah. You're fucking pros. Great. It's good.
The other river comic
back or don't.
Yeah, Nick Dufault, the other river comic, like gives me shit all the time because he's like, I'm like practically accosting, you know, patrons from the stage saying, please come forward. He's like, leave them alone, Leonard. I'm like, they need to fucking come forward.
Yeah. You almost need to like put reserve signs on all the back seats so people just naturally fill into the front. And then you can, and then once everybody's in the front, you can just pull them.
That's a trick that so we did a show here. We've done one show at Side by Each, you know, right during the pandemic, but we had like separated tables and stuff.
Yep.
But when we thought we were selling out, or when we thought we were going to do another show, we thought about putting more tables further in the back. And I was just like, we just got to put signs on those tables in the back that say reserved so that no one sits there. And then, hey, when that 51st person shows up, okay, great. Yeah, I guess we can. It looks like this reserve person didn't show up, so go ahead and take this table.
Well, the thing that I never understood about that too is, especially if it's a smaller venue, you know what I mean, and somebody's sitting, you know, 25 feet away rather than 5 feet away. It's like, I'm not legally blind. I can still see you 25 feet away. If I wanted to be a dick and rip you a new asshole, like I could do it from a distance. I don't need you that close. But I mean, it makes me wonder if people have had bad experiences with shows where like comics, like, because you hear like, don't pick on me. I'm like, Christ, I'm not a bully. Like, you know, like I haven't done shows with anybody that really get like that with audience members. So
yeah, I haven't seen it either. Like, I mean, there are people who do more crowd work than others.
Sure.
Like I do like no crowd work. But you know, you see people who know how to do crowd work, and crowd work is a good 20%, 30% of their set, and like they're not exactly picking on people. They're just like,
no,
let me have some, right. Let me just get a little bit of feedback, and you know, and trail off and get something going.
There's people that are really good at that and bringing people into the show, and most of the times that I've seen that done, and if somebody knows what they're doing and they can do it well, it doesn't get out of hand necessarily. I've seen people who do know how to do it well, and sometimes it does get out of hand because you've got that one guy or lady that's, you know, shit-faced and has no filter, and, you know, just every 5 minutes is just yelling out something, you know, because they feel like they can now because they're part of the show.
I'm part of the show.
Yeah, exactly. Me again. Say my name.
Do you do crowd work? I know we've worked together, you know, plenty, but I don't.
Obviously, that was a memorable experience for you.
Well,
do you do any jokes?
Are you funny at all? What is it?
So who are you again?
I don't even know anymore. I don't really even know anymore.
Well, I was watching some of your videos, and I realized like there's jokes that I was like, oh man, I haven't heard him do that one before. So we haven't worked together that much, you know.
Videos to be watched.
There. Yeah, Google yourself. Actually,
I feel like anything that I've got on the internet is like from a long time ago. Like,
okay.
I mean, stuff that is probably pretty embarrassing. I mean, the current stuff is embarrassing, but that stuff's even worse. So that's why I need to do better at posting updated content for sure. But so to answer your question, yeah, I mean, I'll do crowd work. I think it really it depends on the venue and the show. And for me anyway, like I don't always go in saying like, all right, I want to knock out like 10 minutes of crowd work. I think it really, because it's tough. It's tough to do right. And I still have had moments, where I'll start doing crowd work and, you're trying to get to a place with somebody and then it just ends up being, a dialogue that you could have had at the friggin', pharmacy. It's great talking to you. I guess I'll get back to work now. So, I mean, then there's moments it goes really well and, it's cool and you can come back to it. And, but I would say that I'm not great at it. I mean, I have moments where it's fun and I enjoy it, but it's definitely not my, my strong suit for sure. So I envy people who can do it well, who just really, can really do it well. It's cool to watch, which always makes me want to try more, like I see somebody do it well and I'm like, oh, I want to do that. And then I try it again. I'm like, no, okay. I know why. I remember why I don't,
I've always heard that Jay Leno is like at the beginning of his show, he'll like not pick on, but he'll pick out a few people and then he'll bring them back at the end of the show. He'll remember each person's job, their name, this and that. Yeah. Like apparently he's the master at it. So yeah, but when you do it, that's right. When you do it, I've always heard that you have to have a punchline in mind. Like that, the idea is like you're getting to a joke that and you want to set them up to get that punchline that you already know you're going to do, regardless of what they say.
Yeah, I've seen people like George Hamm used to do that really well. He'd have certain things that he'd pick on somebody younger in the crowd and he'd be like, Jesus Christ, what are you, fucking 18? And like he'd talk about, oh, it must be nice to have 18-year-old balls, and like then he'd come back to like circle back to 18-year-old balls or something like that. But he was just like that. He'd jump around, and then when he can, and Bob Marley does the same thing. He'll pull somebody back in and people love that, they love being included in a positive way. I mean, some people like to be ripped on too, I guess, but those people are usually super hammered.
I need my ego taken down a few notches.
Don't we all?
You mentioned George and Bob. We know you've definitely opened for Bob. Have you opened for George as well before, or is that?
I worked with George. Done. He used to do quite a bit. I mean, even outside of opening for Bob, he used to do some stuff on his own. And I've worked with him. He used to be at the Comedy Connection a lot too. He hosted a lot of which is where I started, and he hosted a lot of like the Thursday night showcases. Which is, after I did the Portland's Funniest Professionals contest a few times, I got, onto those showcases, and those were cool. Cause like it was a Thursday night in the Old Port, and there'd either be 5 people there or 100 people there. Like you never knew, but the nights that there was 100 people there were amazing. Like that room, so great. And seeing him in that environment, and that's where I met like, Tuck Tucker, John Ader, a lot of those guys too, who are all great comics, and I'm still good friends with. So
yeah. So you say you participated in the Portland's Funniest Professional at the Comedy Connection. How many years ago was that? When did you start? Like,
I don't know. I've been doing it for 14 years or so. But I always tell people, like, I've been doing it for 14 years from Central Maine. So it's not like every weekend I'm at a show or a mic or anything like that, So sometimes I would go months without doing anything. So it was like, the first 5 or 6 years, it's like there was always a pandemic going on. Like I was constantly like, well, no shows again this week. I got to stay away from people. But so it was harder to progress, and I'd see people that lived in the Portland area constantly just getting better and better because they had the stage time, and I was doing what I could. And so it took 14 years, but I don't know. My collective experience is maybe 6 or 7 years. I don't really know. So that's something I pull out of my ass when people ask me. So.
The comedy connection I've always heard was I mean, I remember going and watching shows there. I never got the opportunity to perform there, but I always heard that was the greatest room ever.
I've never been to another place that has the kind of energy that, I mean, I've been at some other really great shows that are close and that have that feeling. But I think that's one thing that like main comedians in general lack in just the experience of being in a club setting, because we don't have one, you know, or someplace where you can go and get familiar and be like your kind of home club that people talk about, you know, in other states. And because that really, not just for the experience of being on stage, but again for, you know, the people that you meet, the networking, you know, the experience of you know, the Comedy Connection would have headliners from out of state come in for the weekend. And like I met Ben Roy, who's out of Colorado now, but he's from I think like Augusta area or something like that. And he was on a TV show, Those Who Can't, for like, it was like picked up for 3 seasons. He headlines out there all the time. Butch Bradley, who, when I was in Vegas a couple of years ago, he is a residency at the Stratosphere, the LA Comedy Club in the Stratosphere. So I got to go do a set there one night. And, you know, like I met those guys, I mean, 10 years ago, probably, or more, at the Comedy Connection. It's just harder, you know, when you're at friggin', you know, Ma's General Store in the back, friggin', you know, ripping butts with the owner. And, you know, like it's just different. Not that it's bad. I mean, I've done, you know, and I think you guys can probably attest to this too, like so many random places that have turned out to be these great shows, you know. Right. So it's a good experience either way, you know. It's just the Comedy Connection was just it was fire. I mean, the energy in that room. And I'm talking at a time when, like, you know, I didn't have a lot of material. I wasn't at a place where I could walk in like on stage and be like, all right, well, I know where I'm at. I know what I'm going to do. I mean, I was more or less just, you know, shitting myself for 5 minutes and hoping I'd make it to the other side with some laughs. But, you know, I had those moments that clicked and you really feel what it's like to have a presence on stage. And that's what keeps us all going, is just those moments where, you know, you're like, fuck, like I've never felt anything like this before. You know, I just walked into a room full of strangers and just created something. And, you know, then you get a complex, and then there's therapy.
So how long did it take before you think you maybe, you know, came into your own, like, no, this is my voice on stage. This is who I am now.
Long time. Like, I feel like it's really only been in the last 5 years that's happened. Like for me, I also, you know, comedy, just like a lot of other things in life, you get out of it what you put into it. And, you know, I liked the idea. Like I felt like I was funny around people. And then like, I got on stage, but I wasn't writing a whole lot. You know, I'm up in, the middle of Maine, not really doing a lot of shows. So I'd come down to Portland and there'd be a lot of shows where I would be awful, you know, and we'd stand out in the Comedy Connection. You stand out by the door at the end of the show and people would come out. All the comics were like, you know, hanging out there, and the audience members would come out. And I remember this so many times. People would come out to like a comic standing here and a comic standing here and be like, hey man, great set. Good job. They'd look at me and be like, yeah, okay, yeah, you good set, man. Yeah, good set. You know, and for the longest time that happened, and it really, like, it sucked. And I came to the conclusion I just have to work harder, and I talked to a lot of other comics, and I started asking for feedback, which was difficult, you know, to get more than, hey, good set. Like, you know, because that either means like, I don't give a shit, or, you know, like you didn't really have a good set. Like, you know, just asking for that feedback was really crucial in having, you know, going on, you know, road trips to shows and, you know, talking about ideas and, you know, spitballing bits and things like that. You know, I think that's what really helped me. And then just finding a spot, like people say, well, just have fun. Well, that's true. Like that's more true than almost anything, is that you have to go out and enjoy what you're doing, because I was always worked up and worried about how I was going to do. And I think when I finally was able to just kind of, you know, settle in and know that, okay, like I spent some time on this material, like I feel good about it, you know, that things kind of click and fall into place. So, but Jesus, I mean, there's so many, I mean, more times that I've felt awful and done awful than I felt good. And, but I just think that's part of the process.
It's like playing golf or something, or a sport, like, you know, just that one good shot.
At that than I am comedy, I think, which I can't say about many things, but golf is definitely golf. I am horrid at, but it's, you know, but just like that, I mean, it's just, you know, it sounds cliche, but you know, you gotta put the time in, and you gotta practice. And I do remember being like, well, why isn't it there? Like, why am I not? And I think that's something that people gave me for feedback, was like, you need to find your own voice. Cause I would very much jump around in my energy levels. Not that I ever had a character or anything like that, but I just, you know, sometimes I'd be like on 10 and, you know, fast, and then other times like I wasn't, and, you know, it was just, and I knew that too. So I feel like that's what makes it hard, is you beat up on yourself a lot.
Yeah, that is true. We definitely do that. It's probably an unfortunate side effect of who we are as people, you know, and then the profession or the hobby that we choose to endeavor in. Who was the other comedians that helped you get over that hump, that helped you, you know, discover that part of the
I think the people that I had probably the most, you know, openly and candid conversations with, or, you know, like, you know, talking Johnny, Ryan Wanning, who, have you guys worked with Ryan?
No, not yet.
So Ryan we used to do a ton of stuff together. And just like a lot of people, I mean, things happen in life and you duck in and you come back, and, you know, and I think he was just starting to ramp back up before the pandemic hit. And, you know, we had a lot of car rides together where, you know, you could, just talking about things and asking for that, you know, that feedback. And it's not easy to hear, you know, not at all. I mean, most of the time it's not, but when those things start clicking on the other side, when you put them into action, you know, that's the great part, is you're like, oh, okay, well, that, you know, that really pays off, you know? But I mean, so I got to the point where I really just tried to ask a lot of different people, you know, for that. You know, so even if, you know, like I had great conversations with, you know, with George Hamm. I mean, that he's one of those comics though, that things come so, or they appear to come so naturally for him, that it's almost frustrating from, you know, somebody else's standpoint, where you're just like it's easy, but he also had a lot of time under his belt too.
Yeah. He was a mainstay here in the Portland area. I remember seeing him a lot. Actually, when I graduated from high school, him and George Hamm and Bob Marley were the project graduation comedians at 2 a.m. And you know, I was 18 years old, and I watched the two of them, and that was the moment that I said, Jesus, I want to do that someday. And it took me a long time to get there to actually try it, but I remember seeing them, and you know, I wish George was still doing stuff. I mean, maybe he is somewhere doing something, but I haven't heard, you know, from him in a long time. But when we talk about, you know, you being in the northern part of Maine and not having a lot of opportunities up that way, you know, for people that aren't from around here, you know, explain how that really is, as far as like, you're basically the only comedian north of Augusta, right? I mean, it's tough. I don't know. I mean, it's, you know, like I said, Ryan Wanning lives in this area. There was another guy who got me into comedy. His name is Travis Cowing. And he lived in the area as well. And he's the one that said, hey, go to Portland and start. That contest is open to the public. And he's the one, and he used to do a lot of stuff in the area too, like, you know, 10 to 14 years ago. And that's kind of what got the ball rolling for me. But yeah, it's tough, because like I see, you know, some of the things that happen in Southern Maine with the mics and the different shows, and, you know, that you guys have this, you know, this great community, which I've always felt a part of, even if it's in a disconnected sort of way, just because I'm not there, but I've always felt included, or like I could reach out to anybody and say, hey, I'm going to be around, like, can I jump on a show? So I think that extends
through all of Maine for sure. But it's weird up here. It's kind of like no man's land. There was some people, a kid that I went to high school with, probably, I don't know, this was 8 or 9 years ago now. He started this random open mic. He is more of a theater background, but very funny guy. He started this open mic on a Wednesday night in a bar downtown. And for like one summer, for like 3 or 4 months, it took off. And we had people that were coming in off the streets that were just randomly, because we just be like, hey, if anybody wants to try this, like this is it's a safe place. You can get up and give it a shot. And we had, I mean, just some great people come up and try comedy. There was this guy who was nicknamed Biker Jesus, purely because that's what he looked like. He was wearing like a leather vest and he had long hair and he just had that look. And I remember this. He gets up and he's just like, he's never done comedy before. He was like walking by, came in for a drink, and he's like, all right, I'm going to try this. He gets up and like gets on the mic. The first thing he says in this like gruff, like gravelly voice is like, "Any of y'all seen a dead body before?" I'm just like, whoa. Like, and you know what the cool thing is?
Was that the last night of the open mic?
Yeah, it was done. It was done after that. We all had to move and change our numbers and addresses. No, he stuck with it for like months, and loved it. I mean, and showed up and put time and effort into it. So, I mean, it was really cool to see that stuff happen in our area. But honestly, since then, like there's been stuff that pops up, but there just doesn't seem to be a big draw of people that want to participate or get into comedy. I think somebody needs to do a class up here, honestly. Like, I think, having something, I mean, maybe now is not the best time, but, on the backside of this stuff, when people can be in person again, is to have some kind of a class, I
think you just signed up to teach one.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Be the first, graduating class of a comedy school. Everybody fails,
including the instructor.
Nobody came to the show. I don't even the people that attended the class. $100 a piece. Nobody showed up. So yeah, no. I mean, I would love to do. I think with partnering with somebody, but again, there's nobody frigging around to partner with. So, is somebody going to drive up from Portland? And there's several, like I know Tuck used to teach a class, like Ian Stewart's taught a bunch of classes. I think it's a great idea to get people comfortable with, and understand like more what comedy is about before they just get up on a mic and, go through that experience. Cause that's either going to end it right there for people, or it's going to, if they're really demented, it's really going to push them forward to do more.
I think that's what happened. That's what happened to me. It was like, I didn't think it was going to happen. And I got on the mic at graduation, and I became like a minor celebrity for a week in the paper. And I'm like, holy shit, I guess I got to keep doing this now. This is fantastic. But other people, yeah, right. Other people got into the class and they're like, I'm done. Like one class and they're out, or 3 classes they're out, or graduation is like, I think I'm just done with this. I can't do this anymore. Yeah.
The sad thing is that people don't realize is it makes you just a better, more comfortable, public, even in meetings at work. Like I will say and do whatever I need to do to get my point across. And I have no qualms about doing that because I'm comfortable speaking in front of people now.
Yeah.
I will talk about my penis at work all the time now.
Exactly. It breaks down that barrier of being able to, to talk about your penis pretty much anywhere. I mean, Winnipeg, work and the bus stop. Like, I mean, it is. It's just, I like how freeing that is. It's really, really nice.
The public speaking portion, not the penis.
Oh, right. Oh. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
I do find that and I agree with you, it has helped with public speaking. But I also feel like at the same time, there's this contrast now of like, if I'm speaking about something that I know that I can't really make jokes, that's uncomfortable for me. Like, it's still uncomfortable. Can I do it? Can I get through it and give a presentation and have it be halfway decent? Sure, I can, but I'm not as comfortable. There's that instinct. And a lot of times I just do it at the beginning. I'm like, somebody needs to laugh at me regardless of what the reason is. Like, if I have to go up there with no pants or whatever, like I need to get some kind of a laugh to be comfortable.
You're a funny guy, though. Even just like just to see you, like the way you walk around, your mannerisms, you're immediately like entertaining to watch. So
I don't know how I feel about.
No. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
The way you flail your limbs around. I mean, the lankiness and the way that your bone structure collapses in on your face is really. I don't know whether to laugh or to send some GoFundMe funds for your terminal illness. I'm not sure. I don't really know.
It's a good lankiness.
We'll still be friends after this.
Yeah.
Some people have a bad lankiness.
Yeah,
Leonard's not lanky at all, so
I'm not lanky at all, right? Yeah, I'm kind of jealous.
We can't all have it.
So speaking of seeing your lankiness, you've been on the night show with Danny Cashman a number of times. Like, tell us about that and what that experience has been like.
Yeah, that's such a great experience. I mean, everything. I mean, so Danny's great. The cast, the crew is all the behind the scenes, the sounds and the video stuff is all. They're all Husson students, which is really cool, and they do a really great job putting everything together. It's very professional and well done, but it was strange especially the first time that I did it, because you walk out and you have a couple cameras here, which is weird. It's a weird feling.
So for people who don't know, Danny Cashman's like Maine's version of David Letterman, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. And he's a huge Letterman guy. So he's had Letterman's opener and booker, Eddie Brill. He's good friends with Eddie, and Eddie's been on the show, and I got to work with him once as well. But he's been on, so he's had some big people. He's had Ed Asner on, like he's had some big guests on that show. But it was strange. I mean, the first couple times, like having the cameras are weird. They have the audience it's been anywhere between like 30 people to 60, 70, and it's a fairly big theater. I mean, they've got a guy that is like the applause and like the like fluffer guy who's like, trying to get everybody to laugh. So he's in, no matter what you say. Yeah. It's like you start and you're like, I was at the grocery store. He's like, he's the guy. Man. Yeah. Right. So
that could throw you off.
It's a little, the experience is a little, it's different. But, and then one time, I think 2 times ago that I was on, so you go out, these doors open, you go out, they start the music, they say your name, and then I start my first joke, and then I hear them be like, no, we gotta start over. The sound wasn't on or something. We weren't recording. Like 15 seconds into my first bit, and I was like, oh, okay. So I got to go back stage again, and they're like, okay, we're gonna have you come out and just start it over again. I said, all right, okay, sure. So I go back, and then I come back out, and I'm like waving to the audience again, like I've never been there. And then I get like 30 seconds in, and they're like, no, wait, cut, stop, something's up. We gotta. And I'm like, are you serious? So I go back again, and I come out for the 3rd time. And at this point, like I'm just like whatever. Like it was funny, and so I got through. It's a pretty quick. It's like 4 or 5 minute set. But it's a good experience.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we should probably start recording this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start providing some content now that I know that
All right, if you guys remember what we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes, let's just do that again. All right, and go.
We would definitely be sinking this ship real quick. Self-detonating.
Is this the first one that you've done?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I'm not asking.
No.
Clearly, you guys have never done this before. So
is it that obvious?
Microphone.
No, we have recorded one other interview, and we're doing rock paper scissors to see which one we're going to post first, depending on all circumstances. We got a lot of pieces we got to put together.
Yeah, but, Mark Maron sort of stole our style. So what we're gonna do is
like record like a little intro and then cut into the interview and then record something at the end.
I've heard that with Mark Maron. Didn't he steal some shit from Rogan too?
That guy. Oh, now we started some shit.
Yeah.
No,
all right. Yeah.
That.
See, that was gonna be some podcast words.
Speaking of guys like that, like who are your influences outside the like in the comedy world entirely? Like who do you like?
So I think like the people that got me started, it's a weird range of. The first comedy that I remember hearing was actually Bill Cosby, like on a cassette tape that my mom had. And so like I remember listening to that at a young age and kind of like, I mean, not really understanding it, but at the same time, like couldn't stop listening to it. So, you know, that was the first comedian I remember listening to. And then I think in Carlin as well. But I saw Stephen Wright at the University of Maine, which was the first live comedian that I ever had seen. And you know, I don't know, I wasn't very old, 10 or 11 maybe. And was, but really was like laughing and like felt like, you know, I was like, oh, this is really cool. But at that point in time, I never thought, I was still like, I want to do stand up. Like that wasn't an idea in my head. And I'll probably regret saying this on a recorded, you know, podcast that'll go to social media, but Dane Cook was really the influence of where I was like, I want to do that. Like so that was probably, 20 years ago, like when he was wearing a wife beater and spitting water across the stage. I mean, it's not
don't
necessarily.
Worry, we'll just bleep that out. We'll bleep that out later. Don't worry.
Regardless of how you feel about his material and whatnot, and him, you know, personally and professionally, like the idea of being in front of a bunch of people and having people just go crazy for you is quite intoxicating.
Yeah, well, listen, man. I mean, I don't know what happened with him. He got he was really, really fucking big. He got really big, and he was like one of the first comedians to use like social media as a platform to put himself out there and grow his name. And you know, I mean, I've read all kinds of. I saw him live in Chicago on one of his fucking stand in a circle tours, like whatever it was, like he had the circle stage and it was cool. You know, I try to, even if I don't like a comedian, like especially like somebody that, you know, is big, like I try to, when I like, if I listen to them or watch them, try to do it objectively sometimes, just because I think there's still things you can learn, you know, like I'm not a huge fan of you know, the blue collar comedy guys, but like if you start to dig into each one of those, they're fucking all brilliant. Like if you get outside of the, you know, you might be a redneck and the here's your sign and all that stuff. Like, it's different. They weren't inspirations of mine, but if you listen to Ron White's one of the, you know, hardest working road comics, you know, that there is to date. The dude grinds it. Yeah. So, you know, it's different for everybody. I mean, maybe, you know, maybe it's somebody different for somebody else. It could be Gilbert Gottfried for somebody else, you know, which is fucking weird, but still
very strange, but definitely for some. I've always heard that if you want to be better at something, you watch somebody who is better at it than you are, and not necessarily mimic what they're doing, but you take that into account. Like how did they get to where they are? What did they do? What are the components of it that they implemented that made them as good as they are? And if you want to get better, you gotta do those things too. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but you definitely opened up for Bob Marley. He's probably, you know, a number one here in Maine. Yeah. At this moment, how was that experience opening up for him and the few times?
I mean, it was phenomenal. I mean, I don't know that I'll ever have experiences like that again. I mean, I went from, you know, doing stuff in, you know, small venues and from, you know, 100 to, I mean, probably the max I had done is like a 500 seat venue before that. And then, you know, the first 6 months that I opened for him, I was at the, you know, the Collins Center in Orono in front of 1,400 people, you know, and, you know, just venues that I'll never be in on my own, you know, the Waterville Opera House, which is like an 800 seat venue. And it's just, that will always stick in my mind as just one of the coolest shows, just because you have like this, you know, the balcony sits, you feel like you can like high five people like from the stage. And it's just, it feels like a club, like there's 800 people in there. And like, it just, there's certain experiences like that I just don't think I'll be able to duplicate. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. And I also had some really shitty ones too. Like it's hard opening for him because people are there to see him. You know, they are his fans. Like, I don't remember how many times I walk out on stage and they'd say my name. I'd come out, somebody would be like, "Where's Bob?" You know, I'm like, here we go. You know, I'm like 15 minutes and it's all I got to do. And no matter how well you do, you can go out and you can just be like, you come off stage and you're like, fuck, you're like, I nailed that. 5 minutes later, he's getting 10 times the laughs that you are. And you're like, you mother. Like, this
son of a bitch.
You know, but
I primed them for you.
Right. Right. No. It does not matter. Like, he is so good at what he does, because he's been at it for 30 plus years. He's worked with any comedian that you could ever think of. He's gone before them, after them. Like, there's no scenario. And that's one thing that was cool about, having these conversations with him. As funny as funny, whether you're going before or after somebody who, does, 20 minutes, on dildos or, the guy that, screams at the top of his lungs. Like, if you're a funny person and you have the talent, you have the material, and you know how to deliver, it doesn't matter, which is, I think sometimes, it's easy to play that card. Like, well, it was like the guy before me ruined it, or the audience was like, they weren't really in my age group, or, they were all sleeping or whatever. Like, you just, if you work hard enough, it really doesn't matter. So, so it was a great experience, but it wasn't always. That's what I would tell anybody who, had the chance to do that, is that it is great and absolutely do it, but it's not always going to be, what you think it is, for sure.
Right. Well, you mentioned being in Vegas not too long ago, obviously pre-pandemic and whatnot. So you performed there. Where else? And talk about being out of the state of Maine and whatnot.
So yeah, Vegas, that was a who scenario, that I reached out to him and he said, yeah, I'll put you on, and I went up and did a set, and you know what, it wasn't great. I was very like on edge, like, I'm in Vegas, I'm from Maine, like, how's this gonna go? But it was a good experience nonetheless. Chicago, I lived out there for a little while and did Zanies. This was early on. So that's really, in New England, a bunch of places in New England, but I've never done anything in Boston or New York, or, cause it's a process. A lot of those clubs, like, they want to see you, like, I don't remember which club it is, but there's one in Boston where you just, like, you essentially have to show up a number of times. Like, they have to just, like, know you're in the building before they'll let you, like, give you an opportunity on stage. And I'm like, listen, I live like 4.5 hours away.
Right.
I got kids and shit to do. Like, not that I don't want to do this, but I just, it's tough. So that makes it hard. But one thing that I've, has made it easier for those kinds of opportunities for me is that I've really kind of accepted that I don't think I'll stop doing this at any point in time. Like, I think that I don't have a time in mind where I'd be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I've been through the times when there's gaps where I don't do it, but I've never been like, I should just stop. Like, I'll get back on the horse, however, broken down and beaten it is. And, I'll find my way back. And, eventually that could be when my kids are older and, I'm funnier. I can move, to Southern Maine and, be closer to opportunities, and right now it's, who knows what the comedy world's going to look like in the next couple of years, which sucks. But, I think that maybe it'll bounce back better than ever. Maybe it'll be, a lot of people talked about how it wasn't the same as it was 20 years ago. Like, maybe it'll be, a kind of revival, and, we'll all be in packed clubs, and I don't know.
We can certainly dream. We can certainly dream. So you kind of answered it, but we wanted to know what you had in the mind for post pandemic. If you thought that, yeah, it's.
I mean, what's like a comedy goal for you? Like, what's in the future for you? Like, what are you striving for?
Yeah, like, would you like to be a regular at the comedy store in LA? Like, would that be, or whatever?
Yeah, sure. That's a great goal to have. Like, I think I've changed my perspective and my expectations so much with comedy that, like, I'm at a place where if I'm doing shows, like, I'm happy, and that's what I think that's what allows me to keep doing, is that I'm trying to keep the bar low. So I'm not like, well, in 2 years, I'd like to be on late night television. And then, 4 years go by and people were like, Adam, who, what are you talking about? I mean, just to be in front of a group of people and continue, relationships like with you guys and all the other people that we've met. I mean, I think that's my goal. Like, I don't necessarily want to stop. And if I grow from there and it turns into something else, that's good. I think that's one thing. And this may sound, kind of dumb, but I mean, that's one thing that I think comedians, as they, it's important to have goals. I get that. Like, you need to have, like, hey, I do want to be on a late night television show, or I do want to move to LA. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I also think about the fact that we look an incredibly rare gift in the mouth of just being able to be present in front of strangers and create something, which is really cool when you think about it. When you step back and think about that, like the nights that you've had where you're connecting with strangers, that you've literally been in the presence of for 5 minutes and you're just saying words.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's pretty friggin' cool. So,
yeah,
I mean,
awesome.
I think that's the part of it that I think I'm now hooked on. And that's it's just to kind of keep plugging away.
We'll be the old people in the old people's home, someday, getting up in front of everybody at the lunch tables and
right, yeah,
talking about our walkers and canes and
right, yeah. I'll be trying to tell a dick joke and I'll just be pulling up my nightgown. There it is. Woo-hoo!
You don't work no more, but that's all right. So you do have a life, obviously, outside comedy. You have children. I think you have at least 10. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
If we've ever actually talked about that, but we're
starting a Mormon community. No, we have four. Four all girls. 18, 15, 8, and 3. So it's it's busy, for sure. But I wouldn't change it for the world. And and they're all super supportive and I don't I don't think that they really, like, they've seen me in some level, but I don't think they really get it, which I'm okay with. Like, maybe when they're a little older, they can kind of get it a little bit more. But yeah, man.
What if one of them wanted to go into comedy someday? How would you feel about that?
I mean, I definitely wouldn't shut them down. I mean, I guess it would be cool to be able to see something like that and give, my experience. And, at the same time, it's almost just like, holy shit, you watch, it's like allowing your kid to, like, sign up to get bullied or something, like, you're just like, all right, well, probably the next 3 to 5 years of this is going to suck pretty hard, but whatever you want to do, I guess, we're all going to therapy now anyway, so it's fine. It's good. It's good. No, I wouldn't discourage it. I mean, I think it would be cool. Anybody that I meet who, like, because there's people, I mean, I'm sure you guys have run into this too. People are like, oh, I've always wanted to do that. I'm like, so do it. Write something down, keep track for a little bit and then do it. I'll put you in touch with some people. And
I kick myself all the time because I was in the line at the grocery store one time and the cashier, he was younger and whatnot, and he was hilarious. He was just ripping jokes left and right, like making fun of people in line and whatnot. And I'm looking at him like, who is this guy? Like, why are you a cashier at the grocery store? And I didn't have a card. I wanted to give him a card. And I was like, I just said, hey, be on the lookout, Facebook or whatever. Like, there are opportunities. You are funny. And then I took my groceries and left, and I was like, oh man, I'll probably never see this kid again. But it was
See, he's probably the guy. He's late night at the grocery store. He's like in front of the produce, ripping on friggin' avocados and eggplants, and
he's got 20 minutes on Starfruit for Christ's sake.
He's got exactly. But that's the thing, though. I've met people like that are just like, well, I could do it. I know I could do it, and you're like, it's not that easy, But I welcome you to, absolutely, but it's not that easy for sure. So,
yeah. Speaking of jobs, you have a new job in solar power. Is that right?
Yeah. So I work for a company called Pinetree Solar, and they're up this way, which has been it's a really cool industry to be in right now, especially in Maine. Like they're calling Maine the sun rush state right now because there's so many other places in the United States that solar has been tapped into and being sold. Like there's a lot of business in Maine. A lot of business in solar right now.
Interesting.
So it is very interesting. So it was something that I kind of jumped into because I had the opportunity. The income potential is really, really good. And, that's something that is sometimes, doesn't happen very often in Maine.
I was thinking too, that there's a joke there somewhere too about hot air and being a comedian and working in solar power, but.
Well, it's the sun, actually, Nick. That that powers it. It's not hot air. It's not a popcorn factory. It's a freaking.
See, I haven't flushed it out yet, so I just don't know.
Yeah, you keep flushing it out until it's gone completely.
and our podcast is over. Wow.
It's done.
So maybe while you're on the roof, you can set up a rooftop. Venue, set up a rooftop stage to do a show.
Listen, I'm helping now. I'm helping. I'm not installing these things. I'm selling them. So it's they don't make difference. Nobody in their right mind lets me around power tools and angles or anything like that. Those are not good combinations. I don't know anything about that stuff. So, they do send me out into the public and try to have people, but. The cool thing about this is that they kind of sell themselves because people are really especially these big businesses. I mean, we've talked to businesses it would blow your minds. Places with refrigeration and things like that. They spend, $40,000-$50,000 a month on power.
Wow.
So they build a solar array, and maybe it's $1 million, but in 5 to 6 years, their return on investment, it's paid for itself, and they save millions over 30 years. It's nuts. Stuff you don't even think about. So it's kind of one of those things. So I think we're actually opening an office down in Southern Maine soon.
Nice.
And just think about how many of those hot air balloons you can sell, right?
Power was so.
Shit.
We're opening an office in Southern Maine, Nick, but we will not be calling you for an interview for sales. Yeah,
that's all right. This whole comedy thing is going to take off real quick for me. So,
yeah. Me too, buddy. Me too.
Hey, at least we're having fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Leonard.
So we prepared you for a segment we're going to try to do on every show called "Curse the Darkness." So if you're unfamiliar, there's a Chinese proverb that says, "I'd rather light a candle than curse the darkness." So what we're interested in knowing are what are places where you just choose to just curse the darkness and try to things you would complain about but don't have any intentions about doing anything about.
Yeah, so I did think about this, and there's, I was trying to figure out the level of depth that you wanted with this, and I figured it was beyond just I hate it when people don't put away their shopping carts at fucking Target,
Well, that's one example. I think I sent to Don about.
What am I going to do about it? I'm not tracking people down, following their car. What are you going to do about that? I think there's already somebody that does that on Facebook anyway. I think for me, it's my procrastination, which is something that I've had since I was a youth. And I think that's probably part of the downfall of procrastination is I haven't really done shit about it. Like
Eventually you will.
I'm going to get that. I'll get to it, but it really, it's weird because it's something, as I was thinking about it, there's scenarios. It's gotten better as I've gotten older because it's something that I really tried to, like, especially with my kids, be like, don't put stuff off, just do it. Don't be like me. I mean, but there's a level of like, I know I have a deadline of something and I know it's coming up, and there's a little bit of a thrill that I get from being like, oh, it's freaking, I got 2 days. I'm still good. I got plenty of time. And then 24 hours, I'm like, yeah, I can still do this, So it's weird. There's this little jacked up, procrastination addiction that I get, but I've done very little. I've done very little about doing anything.
That's funny. That's good.
Procrastination just to get the thrill of the hunt. It's 22 hours left.
It's strange though. Like so here's a good example is that like I try. So, there's my wife works every other weekend, and like we have a very equal partnership in terms of like, household duties. Like I pull my weight, I'll do laundry, dishes. Like I don't give a shit, whatever. Like, it doesn't make me any less of a man because I friggin' know how to fold a fitted sheet. That's a lie. I don't.
I was going to say, wow.
Yeah, I really don't. No. But so what will happen though is that I'll know, okay, she'll be home about 3:30, and I'm like, and not that she would come home and be like, why isn't all this shit done? But like, I know that it makes me feel better knowing that it's done. But I mean, our house could be a friggin' shit show. Like, I mean, I'll leave. It's almost like I'll leave stuff on the floor on purpose, like plates and trash, and like it'll just pile up throughout the day. And I'll like look at the clock and be like, I still got 2 hours. I'm good. I'm good. And then I'll know she gets out at 3, and I'm just like, all right, it's go time. So I'm rushing around the house, and I'm like, it's like I feel like there's some montage that could happen, and with background music, and I'm starting laundry while I'm doing dishes, and I'm like, mowing the yard, and it's January. I don't know. It's but that's an example that I can think of. I'll put stuff off, and I'll just be like, but having that narrow window, I'm like motivated all of a sudden.
You're such a junkie.
Yeah.
It's kind of like my kids, where I'm at work and I'm like texting them, hey, okay, guys, I want the dishes done, the cat box done, the laundry moved along. Okay, make sure you vacuum. Like, okay, all right, I'll be home in 2 hours. Okay, all right, I'll be home in an hour. Okay, I'll be home in 30 minutes. I'm getting in the car right now. I want the stuff done. I walk in, and it's just the place just fucking mess. Like, you guys, come on.
You've had ample time.
Right. Yeah. So it is. It's one of the. I don't know if they're doing it right though. They may be, because there's a moment where you're supposed to kick you into high gear, and then you deliver at the end. You essentially are trying to take 4 hours worth of work and put it into like a half an hour window, which makes like you can be like, oh man, I was just all day. Really, I took a half an hour, and I was playing PS4 the rest of the time. So.
Well, that's a perfect example, and I think a good time for us to end it. And we really appreciate it. We're really happy to see you. It's been so long; it feels like forever since we've got to hang out. But we will eventually again, I'm sure. Hopefully,
the last show that we all did together was in Castine, right?
Oh yeah, that was
at the Manor Inn.
Yep.
Was that March?
They've closed since.
Yeah, we shut her down, didn't we?
Yep. Add that one to the list. Yes.
Another venue.
Yep. Yeah, man. Absolutely. I hope there's more, and it's. I think you guys will do well with this for sure. It's needed, especially for the local area.
Well, we appreciate that, and fingers are crossed. Knock on wood.
Yeah,
Adam Hatch.
Adam Hatch. Thank you very much, Adam. Really appreciate you joining us. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
See you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much to Adam Hatch for joining us. I'm sure after the pandemic, we'll be seeing him all over the area and hopefully beyond. Such a funny guy.
If you've never seen him perform, be sure to check out those older clips on the web. Really worth it. And check out The Night Show with Danny Cashman, Maine's answer to late night talk shows and a friend to stand up here and beyond.
Thanks to everyone who listened. Tell your friends and follow Comedy Think Tank wherever you can. Be sure to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Find us on Instagram at Comedy Think Tanked and Twitter at Comedy Tanked. Email us at comedythinktanked@gmail.com. Good day.
Theme music was written and produced by a minor, Ralph Birgfeld. No comedians were hurt in the production of this podcast. All audio snippets of actual funny punchlines were not written or performed by any of us or our subsidiaries. Rather, they are express written bits of professionals we admire. Let the civil actions be filed. Any opinion heard, actual or implied, is that of Comedy Think Tank's producers and their guests. Any slight, insult, affront, slur, disparaging remark, snub, rebuff, rejection, or spurning, no matter how derogatory, pejorative, or abusive you may feel it is, was not intended but for comedic entertaining purposes only. Thanks for listening. Oh, that sounded awful.
Well, just one note, it's tanks. Tanks for listening.
Oh, yeah. Good. That's the worst thing I ever heard.
Is that lame? Is that lame? Fuck.
All right, well, you've already said thanks for listening. We have that. Can you just say thanks for listening one time?
No.